Good day. Welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino. We are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built. Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. They work up and down all throughout the Hudson Valley. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard all through the Hudson Valley, too. And by Jaguar Land Rover, located throughout the Hudson Valley, including places like New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. We are joined here, the Cup of Joe political show, by Moses Mugalusi. That's spelled Mugulusi. Moses Mugalusi is a native of Uganda, and he is running for Congress in the Democratic primary in the 18th and now newly redrawn 18th Congressional District, encompassing parts of Orange, Putnam, Dutchess, and northern Westchester counties, running for the Democratic nomination for Congress. The primary at the polls is August the 23rd, a week from this Tuesday. Early voting has now begun. Moses is challenging Ulster County Executive Pat Ryan and also Aisha Mills from Newburgh. She is a political strategist and a political pundit, too. Moses is from Florida, and he's a state financial examiner from the village of Florida here in Orange County. Moses Mugalusi, welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Johnny, for having me on. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us here on Orange County Talk Radio. Moses, why are you running for Congress?
Yes, Johnny. Thanks again for the opportunity. I'm running for Congress because I strongly believe the system is not working very well, and it's going to take regular folks, regular people like me to run for office to make a difference. When you look at several things, look at housing. Housing is becoming a crisis in New York State. It is affecting younger people. It is affecting senior citizens. It is even getting worse if you're a senior citizen, because the rent is so expensive and you're a senior citizen on a fixed income. It becomes really difficult for you even to live. I've come across many of these senior citizens can't survive. It is quite difficult for them. Look at our healthcare system. It's not working very well.
So if you were in Congress, how could you handle this for the people of New York, knowing you rep us first, and yet in Congress, the national scope to everything always comes in regardless of where you happen to be from or what you want to do?
Yes, sir. If I get the opportunity to get elected to Congress, of course, I'm going to be pushing these policies to increase the production of affordable housing in every county in the nation. The healthcare system is not working. I am for Medicare for all, pushing for Medicare for all to be available to every citizen. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to save lives. When you look at like a public college, I strongly support a public college should be free, because when people go to college, they come out, they don't go anywhere else. They stay here in the U.S. working. By working, they're contributing to the economy.
Mm-hmm. So now, you were first going to run for the Senate and challenge Chuck Schumer for the Democratic nomination. Why did you shift gears and move over to a congressional run instead?
Yes, I was originally running for U.S. Senate because I strongly believe we can do better when we have the power, when we can make legislations that help everyday people. I ran and I went to several parts of New York State, and I had to bail out because the funding became a problem, and the state is a huge place to cover, huge ground. I was struggling raising funds, so I decided to go for a smaller race because I strongly, like I said, when you look at health care, every year over 34 million American families declare bankrupt due to medical bills. I don't think that is acceptable. People who are diabetic, over 34 million, cannot afford insulin. That's why I was going for the Senate.
But what's Chuck Schumer then not doing that he seemingly might be doing? He was a key player in the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act, for example.
Oh, yes, that is just passed recently. But remember, Senator Schumer has been in Washington for decades. And these are issues we are having, which have been there even before he went to the Senate. The Inflation Reduction Act passed, that is great. And I sometimes volunteer with the Citizen Actions of New York. I was among those people making calls. I've been to the forefront of these things, making calls, hitting the streets, calling for these things, these measures to be put in place. So recently, that is an achievement for the Senate. That is an achievement for the nation. That is an achievement for President Biden to have this Inflation Reduction Act bill passed. But before this came around, like when the pandemic came, you saw we are scrambling to get the basics. How many factories have closed? When most politicians were in Washington watching these factories closing, leading people into poverty because people used to work for factories, make a good living, and factories close because most of these politicians are in the pockets of corporations. They do what corporations tell them to do. People end up now working in restaurants, making poverty wages. That's why we're in this situation. And this is the same reason I strongly believe we need to change the way things are being done in Washington. Campaign finance reform, term limits.
And these are issues you talk about that really hit home here in the Hudson Valley, about factories closing, about people having to go work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. The Inflation Reduction Act, if you were in Congress, would you have voted for it, knowing that it was greatly scaled down from what it was supposed to be as Build Back Better to where it is today? I guess you have to look at it as something is better than nothing, and yet maybe we could have done more.
Yes, of course. Yes, I would have voted for it, but doesn't go far enough. And if it is, the name is Inflation Reduction Act, but I don't think it's going to reduce the inflation, because when you look at most of the bills, like there will be incentives. If you go and buy an electric vehicle, you can get up to 7,500, and that is not starting now. There are incentives in the bill for investment in clean energy. That is not starting today. There is a reduction of prescription drugs in the bill, but that is only limited to senior citizens. So you see, it is a great bill, but then it falls short of most of the things, like the government negotiating for the cost of drugs. This is only helping senior citizens. The vast majority of Americans with insurances from the employers don't benefit from this. Also negotiating for the drugs. The drugs gonna be those ones which have been on the market for 9 years or 13 plus years. What about those ones which have not been on the market for that long?
If we fix the prescription drug problem, will we cut down on people having to order, say, from Canada so they could pay a lot less?
Yes, yeah. If we could reduce the cost of prescription drugs, it can really make a big difference in people's lives, because the medication is quite expensive and is not affordable by most Americans. If this bill went far enough to cover everyone, to cover medication for all those people who need medication, not just a small class of senior citizens, it would probably make a difference. Right now, it's going to, of course, help this with the senior citizens. Insulin, you cannot now pay about more than $35 a month. That is a plus.
If you were in Congress,
yes,
how would you propose to help fix the economy and where it is now, seemingly, whether or not we're in a recession or not? I don't know if that's important to use that word, or let's just say, obviously, our economy is not where it used to be. So how do we go ahead and try to turn this economy around and work on things like reducing gas prices further. And they shot up so fast, so soon, about baby formula shortages, supply shortages on the shelves in stores, food, supermarkets, and so much more that's going on right now. Can the fixes be done overnight, or are we in a situation now where we have to just go about this step by step by step, and let's be reasonable, might take some time?
Oh, yes, of course it's going to take some time, but I think the immediate relief we can do with what's going on now, we could give payroll tax reduction. Payroll tax reduction kicks in right away. Right away, it kicks in. It is passed today. Maybe they could say within 2 months' time, your paycheck, the taxes are reduced on your paycheck. Payroll tax reduction can be an immediate effect to people's lives because we are making all these measures, but then most of them don't kick in for quite some time. And people are struggling paying for the gas. People are struggling to pay for commodities, to pay for groceries. We can start investing in our infrastructure, which is a good thing. We could give incentives to these investors to produce items here in the US. That when in the future we are not having that supply chain crisis, which also came about to bring this inflation we are having. We could give tax breaks to those investing here, producing items here. And we could also tax those importing products from overseas, which products could be made up here on the ground and also employ the people.
Why do corporations, Wall Street hedge funders, etc., keep getting away with not having to pay a capital gains tax? It looked like for sure it would finally happen this time. I even got to the point where, I think it is finally going to happen. In the end, it didn't happen. And to me, they scooted away again. So much more money can be generated for the economy, in my opinion, if we go ahead with the capital gains tax. You can argue that it's not really a tax, that they're collecting a fee. It's not really interest. It's not really profit. I hear different explanations. But if I have to pay a tax for giving a gift to my friend with the gift tax, which is on the books, then to me, corporations, hedge funders, etc., should pay a few extra bucks for making a heck of a lot more.
And I agree with you 100%. I mean, these corporations should be paying a little bit more to help out with so many things going on. But the problem we have is has to do with the campaign finance. Most of these politicians are funded by these big corporations, these hedge funds. And whenever it comes to making a legislation affecting them, most of the time doesn't go anywhere. So how do we now go forward? We need a campaign finance reform that now these corporations cannot be putting so much money into the pockets of these politicians, because that is the only way we're going to protect our democracy. You hear people talking about our democracy is under danger. The number one danger to our democracy is dark money in politics. Campaign finance reform is needed. That way, when you get elected, you're actually serving the people who elected you. But the moment you're voted into office and you're not serving your constituents, you're not serving those who entrusted you with the power, then that is not democracy.
Moses Mugalusi is a state financial examiner from the village of Florida in Orange County. He is also a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the 18th Congressional District. Now, of course, redrawn a few months back by the special master. He is challenging Ulster County Executive Pat Ryan and Aisha Mills from Newburgh. Aisha Mills is a political strategist and political pundit, analyst as well. Moses Mugalusi, I know COVID is a big issue for you. Let's wrap these things all into one. COVID, monkeypox, and now polio, too, reported in Rockland County. It's been found in the water supply in Orange County here in New York City. as well. And who knows where else it'll pop up around this tri-state area now, too, and up and down the Hudson Valley. How do we handle all of this, knowing that, and I keep hearing that, yeah, we're post-COVID or just about post-COVID. To me, we're still in the pandemic. We're just adjusting along the way on the fly. Now we have monkeypox here, too, and a certain community seems to be stigmatized about this is only where monkeypox is. We have to deal with polio, too. We have testing. We have vaccines for COVID. We had a monkeypox vaccine that apparently the feds, the CDC, and the people, the national health people, had a certain stockpile, I guess a certain stock of vaccines, a certain supply, amount supply-wise, that they let go down to about 10% of what it was. They were supposed to create new stock, maybe adjust how they make it, maybe be able to make something that they could freeze and keep long-term, and seemingly nothing was done about this. Why does this keep happening, a la the AIDS epidemic of the 80s, for which 40 years later, we still have no vaccine? Why does this keep happening?
Yes, this is a serious problem we are having on our hands, and it all goes to how things are being done, how the system is not functioning very well. We always play catch up, and we have to move away from that kind of conducting business. We must be on top of things. When the pandemic hit, you saw we didn't have anything. Nothing was prepared. We needed to start preparing for the future. Now the vaccines are, at least most people have been vaccinated, though we needed to have piles in case something happens again. The COVID-19 is still in our communities, ravaging through communities. We must set up those programs where people gonna go, because COVID, people may heal from COVID, but it may not be gone completely. There will always be need. These people gonna be needing these follow-ups. That's why we need Medicare for all. Medicare for all can be cheaper, will save lives. Because remember, John, there are many people without health insurance. Somebody is being hit with COVID. Maybe not, they're okay now, they recovered. But what may happen 6 months down the road? We need those regular checkups. There must be those programs after COVID. Medicare for all should be there, that you, whenever you feel like seeing a doctor, you can go and see a doctor. Many people don't feel well. They never go to see a doctor because they cannot afford co-pays or they have no insurance. The medication is not affordable. We can start from having a health care system that works for every single person, Medicare for all. Now, monkeypox, I think we should do better, because so you see what happened with the New Yorkers, how many people lost lives when the pandemic hit first, because the things were not taken serious in the beginning, though eventually things were taken very seriously. Monkeypox, we have to wake up and start bringing down this medication. Medication should be available to people. People should get their treatment. There shouldn't be any stigmatization. It is a health issue. It should be looked at like that. It is a health issue. People have to get the medication. It should be readily available in every single community, because most times we have more medication available, but not very available to communities where it is needed. That is very, very important. The medication already should be available in communities where it is needed, so people can access it. The earlier we act, the faster we act, the better for every single person, the better for our communities.
One of the keys to your campaign is equity and fairness. Describe what that means to you.
Okay, equity and fairness, for instance, if we look at the social justice, I think justice should be applied evenly, not just handed out like a prescription drugs given out to a few. It should be applied evenly across the board. That is justice. When you look at, let's go now to economic equity. Like if it comes to people having access to credit, credit should be available to all those looking to get credit, to borrow money, to do something. When you look at employment, it should be equally available to every single person. Not like some people have access to getting jobs and moving up so fast. Some people never move up. Some people stay in jobs, somebody is there qualified, stays in the same job for years and years, and they don't move up. Others are just swimming through. See, that is not equity. An equity system should be a system that benefits every single person. But the moment the system only benefits the few, the elites, those ones with powerful names, then it is not an equitable system. USA is a very powerful nation. It is a great nation on earth. But there are so many things we can do to benefit every single person in this great country, because everyone contributes to this country. It benefits from every single person being able to contribute to the system, not to take from the system. But where there are those people who need help, those like when it comes to affordable housing, many people cannot afford. We have to help, we have to come in. Before the pandemic hit, tens of thousands of New Yorkers had no housing. Till when in New York passed that Honda using unused hotels to house some people. That was unheard of. But we have to do more. We have to do the things. This is a very rich country. We have the resources. What is lacking is the politicians don't have the spine. The politicians are there for their own welfare, not the welfare of the communities. We have to start looking at things like that. You're there for the welfare of the communities. And I think that's what our forefathers wanted. You get elected to office, go serve, get out. Get out, go in the community, maybe go get a real job. Maybe start a side business in the community, employ young people. Don't get stuck in a certain office. I think that
how do we empower, uplift certain communities, basically every community that is not in the upper echelon around this country? And I kind of tie these issues all in together. Guns, gang violence, drugs, everything is homelessness, everything all associated together here as one. We see what's happening around the country in places like New York City, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. How do we, and to me, crime is not the number one problem per se. It's everything else that leads to maybe dabbling in crime or turning to a life of crime. How do we handle teen pregnancies? How do we handle homelessness? How do we stop the flow of drugs as best as possible in this country, of fentanyl, of cocaine, etc.? How do we wrap all this into one? And I know that's a lot to deal with right here, and yet deal with all of this in a way that makes our society better overall.
Yes, so we could start by looking at our communities, providing opportunities. Let there be programs, after school programs, okay, to start with, so that when kids leave school, they have somewhere to spend the time. Some, they use that time for something good. After school programs can help a great deal. Let's start paying people decent wages. That way, parents are not running up and down from one job to the next, that they are never home, even to take care of the kids. If people don't have to work 3 jobs, that a person works at least 1 job, then the parents will be home always to look after these kids. By having those, just that good jobs paying very well, after school programs, school funding, we can reduce children pregnancy by greatest percentage. Now drugs. If we have these programs where kids are at least being accommodated, they may not end up on the streets. Little kids, 18 years, 12 years, 13, they're on the streets and nobody is taking care of them. They are now getting associated with these other bad kids. Turns out they are into now dealing drugs. We can also close our borders where drugs are flowing into the nation so rapidly. That can also help out. We may not eradicate drugs completely, but we can start from somewhere, close the borders where drugs are coming into the nation at a very high rate.
How do we close the border, though, with everything that's gone on? We see the flights coming into Westchester County under cover of night with immigrants who come into this country through the southern border. We've seen people being sent now recently to Stewart Airport in Newburgh, too. How do we find a way to fix immigration, which has been a problem since I was a kid? Few years back. It's been a problem. I thought there were times we were moving in the direction of getting this problem fixed. And now it's a bigger issue, a bigger problem around this country because people cross the border and then get sent by bus now to the New York City area or to Washington, D.C., et cetera. How do we just somehow bring this under control so that everybody plays a part in welcoming new people into this country, number one, yet making sure we're not overrun? And when I say we, especially, I mean the small towns along the border in South Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, that are not bigger than, let's say, a New York City neighborhood. They can't handle this influx of so many people day by day. How do we find a fair and equitable system here with the immigration problem by being charitable to new people who are coming in and yet making sure that flow of drugs, for example, is not getting into this country?
Yes, so this country is a combination of immigration. It is most people here, or could say 90% are immigrants. It varies from the time. Some people came many years back, some are just coming. But we need an ordered immigration system. We need to reform that system. The politicians in Washington have really failed completely. Both parties have a big problem. Republicans and Democrats, they have failed the people who elected them. They've failed to work on immigration reform. We need a comprehensive immigration reform. People coming into the nation through the proper channels. All of us just came here. But you come through the process, you go through the process, the normal way. That is how it has been for the longest. Okay, so because without that orderly system, we're having a problem. Now you've seen recently Mayor Adams complaining about people being bused to New York City. Remember, how many are they? They are not even in thousands, but it is already a problem in New York. Those who have come here are very few already, not even, is it 1,000, something less than 1,000 people, I'm sure. Now look at those border states like Texas. How much problem do they have? Because they've gotten it hundreds of thousands. So that tells you this is a problem. If in New York State, we've just got a few, less than 1,000 or 1,000 and change, and we're having that problem already, that means we have a national problem.
I think Mayor Adams is trying to do this in a nice way, in a way where he's saying, come on, Washington, take a real look here, wake up, and let's find a fix.
Exactly, yes. That's what I'm saying. We need to fix this. We need to let people come in, but through an orderly system. You cannot have just an open border, boom. We don't know who is coming in, because you hear people are coming from farther away and they end up here. You want to know who is coming into the country. That way we could at least be able to, we know those people, we can vet them better. With an open border system, it can be a problem. It can be overwhelming. You don't know who is who. People just flow in with those who are being at least brought to other states, brought to New York, taken to Washington. Maybe those ones have some documents which they've shown. But how many of people who have gotten away, how many have not seen? They entered, but they were not even seen. No one even knows that they entered. Those are the problem right there, because we don't know who are there. Who are they? You cannot identify them. So I think it is high time both the parties worked together, because we have a problem of partisanship in Washington. Any idea that comes from Republicans is very bad for Democrats. Any idea that Democrats bring up is very bad when it comes to Republicans. Both parties have to grow up, fix the problems for this country. This country is a great nation. Anything can be fixed. Immigration is not solved. It is big, but it's not beyond this nation's ability. It can be fixed. Both parties have to come to a table and understand. I think if things are not working out, it's going to come to a point where all these people in Washington, Democrats, Republicans, all of them needs to be retired. Get new people there. Get new people, look at things differently. To fix some of these things which are not so big, but these politicians have made them so big that they cannot be fixed.
Moses Mugalusi, we thank you for joining us in Orange County Talk Radio. Moses Mugalusi is a state financial examiner who lives in the village of Florida here in Orange County, and he is running for the 18th Congressional District, a Democratic nomination against the Ulster County Executive Pat Ryan and Aisha Mills, a political strategist and political analyst from Newburgh here in Orange County, too. Moses Mugalusi, all the best to you. Good luck with your campaign. Early voting has started. Primary day number 2 in New York State is Tuesday, August 23rd. Make sure you get out and vote no matter how you vote, whether you vote early, by mail, or you just go to the polls on Election Day. Exercise your right to vote. Moses, I know you would agree with me. That's what it's all about.
Yes, John, I agree with you 100%. And I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come to your show. I very much appreciate it. We need everybody to go and vote. Vote for Moses Mugalusi. We can do this. I'm a guy who is there for everyday people. I've been there from day one, fighting for affordable housing, school funding, climate change, and justice reform. It's Moses Mugalusi is your best candidate, and I will be your strongest advocate in Washington. You can count on me. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Moses Mugalusi, Mugulusi, came to this country from Uganda. We thank you for joining us here on Orange County Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, the Cup of Joe political show, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that serves, built by Michael Labriola Landscape Design, and construction of Armonk in Westchester. They work up and down the Hudson Valley, as does Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard no matter where you are around and across the Hudson Valley, and by Jaguar Land Rover. They are located throughout the Hudson Valley, and they are in places like White Plains, New Rochelle, and Mount Kisco, among others. Catch all of our Orange, Dutchess, Putnam, Rockland, Westchester, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube, and now we are, yes indeed, on Apple Podcasts too.